Hello. Well, I would love to introduce you guys to Alison and Monica, which are two amazing, incredible beings and people that I feel like so honored that they are here with us. And they're gonna talk to us about talk to the entities, about magic, about all those amazing things they know.
I'm pumped. This is exciting.
Great.
What would you guys like to know about? Or we can just start with we'll wet the whistle here a little. We'll ice the tongue. We'll do the icebreaker. So Monica and I, and probably some of you on here, are Talk to the Entities facilitators. And Talk to the Entities is a specialty class of access consciousness. And it just makes communicating with entities really friggin' real, possible, easy, and like, why wasn't I doing this when I was born, since I was born? That's what it does.
It's funny because even as you start to just throw out the idea of entities, it's like, whoa, what are entities? What does that mean? And is does that make you really weird? Does that make you like clairvoyant? Do you like see all sorts of things or hear all sorts of things? And like what there's so much like superstition and kind of incorrect information out there about that Talk to the Entities really helps to kind of address, just like Alison was saying, in this like really practical, pragmatic, easy to approach kind of way. And I just want to say that for me, talking to entities, it's like, all of those things were like when you go into a house and it just feels creepy, just like scary, but there's no reason that it should be scary. Like the lights are on, it's not even late at night or anything, or you like walk past a certain place and you get a really strange sensation just from that place, and you could go away from it and the sensation goes away, and you can go back toward it and the sensation comes back. I mean, all of that kind of stuff, that is like one of the ways that I've used Talk to the Entities a lot, just to like play with and acknowledge these things that almost could seem like nothing, or like you're making them up, or something like that, something that you don't usually get to talk to people about, but you might be super aware of, like when you're a little kid, like if you have to like run and jump on top of your bed because you can't, because there's something weird over there and you can't, like
Sometimes I still do that.
yeah, yeah. But so like just getting to acknowledge all of the spirit world that we are aware of, that we don't often get a chance to acknowledge and talk about, and then to like play with it, talk to it, learn from the wider world, the universe that goes beyond just the like physical things that you can see and touch.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Like, speaking of just things like you're feeling weird in a certain house or area or in the dark, like I looked normal on the outside, I guess, as normal as I could. But I didn't let anyone know that I had so much anxiety, all of this repressed and hidden anxiety growing up. I was like always kind of pretty much terrified of everything, of the dark, of, certain rooms, of under the bed, of the basement. And then as I got older, I started traveling to different countries. And I don't know how I like made myself travel so much and live with host families when all the time I'd get to a new country and it would take me like 3 hours to leave the airport because I was so psycho. I thought I was psycho, but really flash forward to this amazing class, Talk to the Entities, and having actual entity awareness. The moment that I took my first Talk to the Entities class and acknowledged, holy crap, holy shit, holy caca, I was aware of like entities, energies, other people's thoughts, feelings, and emotions in bodies and out of bodies, especially like if you're going to countries where you may have had a past lifetime and perhaps you killed everyone there, or they killed you, or they loved you, or they hated you, or you just cursed the place. Like these weird things, like when you go to different places or even different places in your own country, you can have a hard time somewhere if you're not aware of what's going on. So when you start to acknowledge, okay, this is weird, like this is weird. I feel crunched. What is this? What do I do with it? Can I change it? And if so, how? Is this an entity or something else? If it's an entity, then you get to go into this whole universe of communicating with what you're aware of. And just by acknowledging it, first and foremost, just notice what that shifts for you, because it completely changed my world in being able to move through the world without this wall and cage of anxiety. And now I know if I get anxiety, I'm either like aware of someone or the future is going to change, or there's an entity that I'm like ignoring, which I still do, just because we've taken 375,000 Talk to the Entities classes and facilitated them, we still are learning and growing. And I would say just like, I work with horses a lot, and you can't get to everything. Like there's nowhere to get to with horses. You're not, if you hear someone call themselves like the master of everything there is to know of horses, like, yeah, right. There's always more. The same goes with entities. Like there is always more in the infinite universe, everything of entities. Um, and what would you like to explore, and where would you like to start, and what are your, targets? And you might find that you have capacities. Everyone has capacities that are completely different than mine and from each other's. You're going to start to explore if you'd like. You don't have to go into this weird world, but if you're here on the Zoom, you probably are interested. Otherwise, I don't think you would come to an entity's Zoom. Or maybe you just want to make fun of us. That's okay too. But you might be starting to like crack open the doorway to what you're personally capable of in this area.
It's funny as you started talking about like how your life was before Talk to the Entities and then what changed and like the tools that you have and all of that afterwards just made me think about like when I first came across the tools of Talk to the Entities. I had an acupuncture clinic in New Orleans, and there was one day that this woman came in and she was terrified. She was in a lot of pain and she was super scared. And, I was working with her, and it was just like, kind of like the embodiment of maybe what you were not showing people, like, and she basically she told me that like, well, I had her come to repeated sessions for a while. And at first we were doing private sessions, and then we did sessions in a group where I would be treating many different people in different chairs, and then they would rest while I went to work on the next person. And when I had her in the group setting, she would be like, every time I look over there, my knee hurts. But every time I look over there, my tooth hurts. And she would describe what was going on for everybody in the room. And I just knew it was like, I know what that's like. There's nothing wrong with you. You're simply aware. And she started to tell me at one point that she just wanted to live a life where she had just like, maybe she moved to a very small town and she just worked a lot. And she just wanted to create as small a life as possible so that she didn't have to feel so many things. And she was just such a beautiful woman. I was like, that sounds horrible, like I wouldn't wish that on her. And so I thought, like I know what that is, to be aware of something but not like understand what it is that you're aware of or where it's coming from and what to do with it. And I had gone through my own journey of like and just being aware of what was going on in somebody else's body, and so I was like, okay, I'll do anything to help her, whatever that is. And then I came across Talk to the Entities, and I was like, all right, what is this? And I watched some little free videos and I heard some like really basic tools, and so I just started using them for myself, because I wasn't going to just suggest this to my patient without having tried it at all. And it was funny because it was like, by working on like discovering this to work with her, I had to admit that like I had always been really aware of entities, but at a certain point I remember, I think I was 5 years old, I decided very clearly, if I tell people the things that I see that they don't see, then they will think I'm crazy and they will put me in an institution. It was like a very detailed decision for a 5-year-old. I knew that,
That's what happened last lifetime.
exactly. Lots of medication, don't want that. Totally like straight jacket. I was like, oh, so I just like repressed it. And over the years of like repressing my awareness, it was really uncomfortable, and so then fast forward to this time with kind of playing with the tools for my patient, then all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is making my life easier. I wasn't sure what I expected, but I just was like, I would just use some of the really, really basic tools, and it was really exciting. And so then I started to talk to her about some of these tools, and it really had such a huge impact in her life. And then I still hadn't taken a class yet. And then I was like, okay, I think I'm going to take a class. And there was this moment of like, oh shit, if I take this class, then I'm actually going to have to talk to the entities, like, and now I realize that there was actually a lot of excitement and like, yes, in my world. But at first it really seemed like, oh no, oh God, because I had worked so hard to repress it, that just to like jump into a class where we were just going to do it seemed like, what am I, crazy? I've been working so hard not to be crazy. Now I'm going to be crazy. But so I just wanted to bring that up too, because I know that it's really interesting. Like Alison and I have been facilitating Talk to the Entities for a while now, and we've facilitated different classes together. And it's so interesting, people who are like, oh, I want to take that class. And then no, I don't think so. Or, or the people who are like, no, I'm not doing that, just like all of that that comes up. And I guess I would just like to say that, like, wherever any of you are with your journey, like, it's okay for you to be where you are. And to know that, like, the cool thing about these tools that I have encountered over and over again is that it just allows things to get easier. And not more, you don't like all of a sudden become possessed or like all of the things that you might have been scared of, that it's like, it can show up in all sorts of unexpected ways too. It's not just like, now I'm going to be spending all of my time talking to like my great grandmother who died, or whatever. But
you don't have to talk to anybody you don't want to talk to.
Yeah, exactly. That it's like, yeah, that these tools give you more skills for you to use in ways that work for you, so
Totally. That was great.
as for the entities. Also, I just have to say, because like with other stuff with my family, like the crazy that was in my family that I was trying not to be crazy, like, man, I've thought so much over the years, like if we as a family had had the tools of talk to the entities, what a different experience, what a different journey we would have had. And it's so cool too, because it's like there's such a kindness that I see in talking to the entities. It's like a kindness for yourself to like just open your eyes in a way and talk to and be aware of what you're aware of. But then it's also a kindness to the universe that you get to like say hello to something that might be kind of stuck, or you get to receive from something that might like to really contribute to you, or even you get to be like, shut up, and not just get lost in the meanness that's out there too, and that's the kindness to all of us, for each of us to be empowered and to be able to set this stage for ourselves to be happy,
Yes. Gosh, and I'm so excited. Like there's been so much changing in access consciousness lately. Like, well, I won't go through all of it, but there's been lots changing. But one of the things that is so exciting is like the stories that people tell themselves, or the stories, and we'll just use entities as an example because that's what we're talking about. But all of the stories and the points of view that you have in your head about entities, 99.99999% of that you got from, and you didn't even know it, like before the age of 2, you're this little baby that's spat out into the world, and you're like this little blob that's like, yay! And as you get a little bit older, you have to start to figure out how to be who you are and this identity. And one of those things that you literally download a point of view about so that you know where you are, when you are, why you are, how you are, and the other W,
what
what you are.
yeah.
With in regards to the unseen and spooky feelings and energies and things like that. 99.999% of that stuff you get from your parents or your grandparents, your family, movies like crazy. Most of it you just like pick up, and it's not even verbal. You'll pick up on the thoughts, feelings, and emotions of your family about this subject. And most often that is usually like, don't look at it. Fear, that's creepy. That's not real. Why would we talk about that anyway? Why is this even a thing? So if you look at your points of view, so if I ask you like, what do or does entities mean to you? When I say, would you talk to a ghost right now? Or what do you think about entities? What points of view come up for you right now? And you're gonna go to all kinds of things either that you've already had in there, and then you're gonna start to notice all these other things and maybe points of view you didn't know that you had before or that you were buying as yours. And so all of those points of view, if any of you have come to a conclusion, this is entities. They are this. I know this. Or, ah, a conclusion is only the ceiling. It only creates a limited version of the reality you could be having with the whole entity universe, kingdom, whatever you want to call it. So if you add a question in there, so anyone who came to a conclusion, what if you threw that conclusion out the door? And just for the next evening or the next couple days, what if you actually started to turn towards the energies, even if you can't see it or can't feel it? what am I aware of here? Are there any entities here? You could even like close your eyes and ask, okay, truth, what am I aware of? Entities, are you in here somewhere? And just see where your attention goes to. You could even point at where you're looking or where you're not looking because your eyes are closed, but point to where you're aware of and just say hi. Like, okay, I just noticed something there. What else can I notice? What else can I receive? What else is possible with entities I've never considered, my family's never considered, nobody I know has ever considered? When you ask a question, you're gonna open the door to more awareness, and like you're going to get awareness even if it's confusing at first.
It's so cool just because as you were starting to talk about this, I just had this sense of like, wow, I I love to be in classes with Allison. Like she has a really different perspective. And it's just so cool how, we mentioned before, she mentioned too that like, you never like get to the end of it. There's always something more for you to explore. And, it's just so cool that we get to have conversations about this, that we're taking something that has been really taboo and surrounded in superstition and the points of view your family had and all of this stuff that maybe you've never even looked at. Like until she asked that and until she presented that, it was like I hadn't really just looked at it so straight on, to have a sense of that, even though I've been talking to entities, taking classes, just that like each conversation that we have opens things up for us to get even more awareness, and that each person who comes to the conversation brings their universe and lifetimes of awareness too. And so the conversation can go in all sorts of different directions and grow. And it's like we get to contribute to each other along this journey, these different perspectives and different questions and different like curiosities can kind of come up. And so it's just so cool to have this sense of like, no matter what you think or what you've decided, there's so much more, and how rich that can make being alive, and that we get to have this adventure in this realm that has been really ignored. It's not that the spirit world doesn't exist. It's that we have rejected it or turned it into like religions and cults and stuff like that. And, we've, as people, have done all sorts of stuff that actually just limits our access to the gift and possibilities there.
Totally. Oh my gosh. Yeah, and you were saying all of that. I was like, oh my gosh, like the gift that it is, especially like when you start to, I mean, when I grew up and talked to the entities, it started off as like, I don't know, not where it is now. It was like there was a lot of fear that needed to be cleared. There was, hi. There was a lot of fear that needed to be cleared. There was like more fear and doubt based curriculum,
Totally.
which was
Totally.
awesome for me back then. Now the manual is completely rewritten, and it's more about the clearing, communicating, receiving, cooperating. And of course, if someone has fear, we go into that. But it's so cool to see where people are starting now in their entity journey, and also exposing the lies of fear or doubt or just blank. That blank when you're like, I don't know what they're saying or if something's talking to me. Um, but once we really dive in the classes, like uncovering all of that blank unconsciousness or wall or fear, that whatever barriers, um, and you get to start exploring who and what wants to cooperate with you. And it took me a long time to actually get that you know, it wasn't just about clearing entities, or like once you had a conversation and you figured out why they were there, then they should go away. But some of them actually, a lot of them actually want to hang out with you or be in your space whenever it's fun for both of you. Hello?
There's an entity.
Arthur's just yelling on the phone.
That's
I
hilarious.
think he's like on the phone.
Can't hear it though. You can't
Are
hear
you talking to me?
it.
Anyway, there's these entities that are there for you. Like if you even think of your dog or your cat, yes, they have a body, but who and what is running the body? And you also have animals that are there from other lifetimes that, you know, what if death is a completely different thing than we have ever thought that it was? And there's a kitty. Yay! And like animals don't have the same point of view about death that we do. Um, so there might be like your dead golden retriever from when you were a kid that's been around trying to contribute to you for so long and is now the time to allow all of those beings and energies to contribute to you. Oh, hold on.
You know, it's so funny actually. Oh, Freya. It's so funny that you say this because like so I have these two cats and I totally didn't think that I was like a cat person. I just really didn't want to have to deal with litter boxes. And but before I got these cats, I kept on seeing this like ghost cat around my place. It was just like, you know how sometimes you'll see something out of the corner of your eyes? I kept on seeing a cat and I was like, what? And then I just finally was like, oh no, do I need to get a cat? And I just thought, oh God, I mean, but it was so clear. And then I would wake up and it was like, this cat was like, cat energy was like, you are mine, you are mine. I'm here, I'm ready for you, I'm ready. And so I said yes, you know, and then I ended up getting these two cats and like, they contribute to my life in a way that I like, I can't even put it into words, like the beings that they are. And it's so funny that like, if I was not willing to acknowledge what I was aware of when I would see a little like cat entity, then I might not have even started to open up this door to allow them to come in. And so it's just so funny how like non-linear this journey is. And that, you know, it's like all of these things that are showing up, it is so far outside of what you would expect. I would not have expected a little cat to be like, it's time, I'm ready for you, you know? But like what a huge gift to be willing to say like, I am aware of something. I did notice something. Okay, now what? And not have to come to conclusion to it. You know, it could have been something else. It could have been a cat entity that was just hanging out and didn't have anything to do with me, you know, or whatever. But asking questions, it's really, again, like enriched my life. And it's just so funny because it's like I think about, gosh, you know, like, so Alison and I have this class, these several classes coming up, and I'm just so curious about like what else is possible now. Like, what are the conversations that we can be having now, and like how can that be contributing to people's lives? Like, I want to hear all the crazy stories that people have about, you know, I was walking down the street and then all of a sudden my grandmother told me to go over here and I found, you know, $5,000 or whatever, you know, like there's just random things that can occur. And it is like, you know, in the beginning, it was, I don't remember if it was Ilya or Alison who said, you know, that like we were going to be talking about magic, but it is magic, you know, to be aware of what others refuse to be aware of, and to use that to have fun, to have an easier life, to enjoy, to move through the world as a space of like possibility and fun. So I'm so curious what it is that we will be exploring coming up with, given all of the other classes that Allison and I are in, and like who who is it, like who is interested in having these tools, and then that what is it that you're looking for, because we can really go anywhere, you know and we have these coming classes where it's like, every day for a while that we get to just like dive in, and it's such a gift to get to go on this journey with each other.
A giant ghost staycation. Yeah. I don't know how to say staycation in Spanish, but probably it's staycation.
A slumber party without sleeping.
It's siesta de fiesta. Siesta de siesta? Okay. Well, anything else? I think that was like such a great introduction, and we talked about so much stuff. So if you're listening to this, or you're listening later, like listen again, because there were a lot of really good nuggets in here, and the energy that you guys are all being with us and us with you is really moving stuff. It just feels so good. So thank you for being so present, and you're more than welcome to join us for our future sessions at the end of the month. And what else? What else is possible?
Yay. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Sabrina.
I miss you guys. Yay. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Next classes. Thank you.